everybody, and welcome to a new episode of MrsPinky Thoughts. I'm your host, Nicole Pinkston, and I would like to thank you for joining me for a new show today. Today's guest is Diante Johnson. He is the president of the Black Conservative Federation. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
I am great, blessed and highly favored.
The only way to
um,
be.
yes, before we get into our show, I'm going to do a little bit of my intro, and then we're going to get right into it. Uh, as you can see, I have my information around the screen for you. All of my links and everything are at the bottom. I'm also a media manager over at the consciousconservativemedia.net. If you would like to join us, we now have opened it up for free for everybody who's ready to come to our virtual summit. This series that we're doing now, I started, it's called People Who Activate, and I'm trying to let people know of those of us who have gotten tired of our current political situation and wanted to actually activate in their communities and to do something instead of just waiting for like a political savior or something like that. So as we getting into this 2022 election cycle, I'm trying to put a lot of faces and names. In my audio podcast, I had Devin Jones from Illinois, and we had candidate Latasha Fields. And with us right next to me is Diante Johnson. How you doing, sir? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what it is you do?
So I am from Illinois as well, from Chicago, Illinois. I'm the president of the Black Conservative Federation. I am a political consultant as well, and so I strategize campaigns all around this country. But I got my start very early on in local politics in Illinois, and ran for a county board seat, and uh, worked on local elections, and citywide elections and statewide elections. And so I'm currently here in Washington D.C. and um, just been fighting the good fight.
Awesome. So was the Black Conservative Federation your idea, or is an organization you became a part of? How did that start for you?
So I am the founder of the Black Conservative Federation. We started in 2016. Um, and that was when I was working on the Donald Trump campaign in North Carolina as a field director, and I realized that the Black vote was actually um, up for grabs, and but we had to actually go into the community, and we had to actually be present to go and grab it. And so I really realized that we have to share the principles, we have to share the values, and once we do that, we can really um, activate the Black vote.
Awesome. Before we get into a little bit more deeper, because I want to learn a little bit more of that from you, but can we back up just a little bit? I want you to talk about your conservative principles. Are you someone who came to conservative late in life like me and maybe grew up Democrat, or were you always conservative? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So my family is very Democratic. They're not active Democrats, but they vote Democrat. But I myself said, why do I have to vote Democrat? Why do I have to, be a Democrat just because my family has been a Democrat, or just because I was told I had to be Democrat, just because I was Black? And so I've never voted Democratic. And so I did the research myself and realized that I was actually a conservative. I stood for the First and Second Amendment. I stood for free enterprise and limited government. I stood for the sanctity and dignity of life. And I stood for common sense regulation. And those are all conservative principles. And that is why I'm a conservative today.
Awesome. Did you ever had any pushback or any struggle from your family or friends or neighborhood from you like coming out, so to speak, as a conservative, or even when you started to let them know, oh my God, I'm working for Donald Trump of all people? How was that transition for you?
So I didn't have any pushback from family as much as because I was always raised to be a free thinker and be an independent thinker and not do what someone else does. But and also stay in a positive realm. They may not agree with my politics, but I was doing something positive. Um, in the community, yes, the community attacked me every chance they got. And that same community um, now calls on me every chance they get, and so and I still go and I still am very active. But you get the pushback, but once you start to talk about the policies and once you start to talk about why you're a conservative, um, they may understand. They may not come over, but they may understand in another light.
What drew you to the Trump campaign in 2016? Was did people come to you, or were you interested? How did that come about?
So I started out working on the Ben Carson campaign, and from there, Dr. Carson endorsed President Trump, and one thing led to another, and there I was. Um, so I mean, he was pretty much the at that time it was just pretty much him and um, Ted Cruz at the time.
Awesome. And then, so you were glommed on to Ben Carson before, he had dropped out the primary. I think it was them three. And I think John Kasich, I think, was one of the top runners. So you went from the Ben Carson campaign over to the Trump campaign. And was that transition easy for you, or
I
how
was a
did
very
it go?
smooth transition. We just the campaigns pretty much collided.
So how are you? Before I get to the 2022 election, so your organization actually helped Glenn Youngkin when he was running in Virginia. And how did that partnership come about? And can you tell us something that you saw that was interesting in his campaign that was different from other Republican campaigns, or how you guys hooked up and how that happened?
Well, for starters, we did black outreach in the primaries. A lot of campaigns wait until the general election to start to do black outreach. Um, Glenn Youngkin wanted to start doing minority outreach very early on. He wanted to start building coalitions early on, and the campaign manager um, and I have been friends for quite some time, and he couldn't think of anyone else to call but us. And we accepted the call, and I sat down with Governor Youngkin, and I asked the first question I asked him. I said, "Glenn, you're doing black outreach in February of a primary year. Um, why not wait until you get the nomination?" And he said that you know that the black community is very important to him, and that we had to start the work now. He didn't see them as something that he didn't see a timeline. He saw progress, and so we started immediately, and we went to Richmond in Jackson Ward neighborhood in Jackson Ward community. And whereas historically where a lot of the black historical businesses used to be, it's actually um, some will refer it as the original Black Wall Street, because that is where 400 years ago our ancestors came into Virginia, and that's where a lot of the first black businesses started. And so we started that, and we really just met with people, did roundtables, met with pastors, met with community leaders. And then we had boots on the ground. We had an entire black operation on the ground, knocking doors and really reaching out to voters.
And what was some of the feedback you got from doing that? Were the residents shocked that y'all actually were doing this and so early within the campaign season? What was the response from the voters in the area?
The residents were shocked, but I believe even members of the Republican Party were shocked. And as always says, this is how you do outreach. This is where you start. Um, and we brought on a lot of independents because of that. A lot of independents came on to the Youngkin camp before the generals even started, because Youngkin had those conversations. We had roundtables. He just listened. We had listening sessions. He asked questions. He asked people what is it that they wanted to, what is it they wanted out of their state government. But also we went to black businesses. We supported black businesses. We had any event we had, we either hired a black caterer or we went to a black restaurant. And Glenn had a chance to meet with those business owners as well.
Yes, I remember Glenn Youngkin had did an episode of Sonny's Corner with Sonny Johnson, and she was very surprised that she said that he actually did the Maggie Walker walk and
Yep.
the tour of all of that, and actually seemed very interested in it. And one thing she picked up on what he did is he sat down with local business leaders and he had a notebook. So he
Yeah.
actually was listening to the community instead of coming in with his ideas on how he was going to change everything. What did that have something to do with you guys, or that was just all him?
So that was we worked together on, and he actually educated me on Magic Walker. But that was something that we planned, and we sat down, and uh, the governor. When I remember a conversation we had, he was saying that, I don't have the answer to this, but I want the answer to this. And I told him, I said, listen, listen, Glenn, you don't have to have the answer. Okay. And actually, I rather you don't have the answer. So many times politicians come into the community, and especially Caucasian politicians come into our community and say, well, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to fix it. Well, you don't really know how to fix it because you don't live here. And we don't expect you to. But what we want you to do is we want you to be able to listen, and we want you to be able to take notes. And then once you get elected, we want you to actually do what you say you're going to do, or or listen to some of the things that we've told you. And Glenn Youngkin has been doing that ever since. I just saw today he was in Chesterfield County, and he was visiting some Black businesses there.
That's awesome. So, in our organization, we actually work with Sunny and we work with Kevin Daniels. And you said you worked in North Carolina, so I'm pretty sure you have linked up with Kevin. And
Kevin
one
was my
thing
first hire.
he was your first hire. Everybody tries to grab him, but he don't. He don't. He probably gonna be mad at me for mentioning his name right now because he likes to be behind behind scenes. But I brought him up because he has a very good point that he made. So he came to Georgia for our runoff. Me and Felicia, who is the CEO of the Conscious Conservative Movement, we're based in Atlanta. So he came in to help out with the and it was a whole different atmosphere in Georgia. We didn't have a lot of Black outreach with different campaigns. You know, we were dealing with the runoff and all of that. And what I've seen different between what you guys had going on and what we had going on, it was like not only did they not have Black outreach, but they had like no coordination between whoever was doing what. And so a lot of people want to glean from you guys what you guys did differently and how. And when you said Black outreach, it was actually done. And you said the governor is actually talking to Black small businesses. What can Georgians and other states learn from that, from you
Well,
guys?
I'm glad you mentioned Kevin. One of the first things as a leader that we have to begin to do is know our strengths and know our weaknesses. Um, as soon as we got the green light to come onto the Youngkin campaign, the first call I made was to Kevin Daniels. And I said, Kevin, I need your help. Kevin is a policy guru. And so I need it. And I'm good at policy, but policy isn't it's not, I don't eat, sleep, and think policy. And Kevin does. And so we brought Kevin on. We brought another guy on who was good in field. And so the biggest thing that we have to make sure that we understand is that me, as the president of the Black Conservative Federation, there was no way I could do it by myself. There was no way that I could be the expert in every aspect of it, but I had to bring on people who were good at that. We have to learn how to operate as a team, not as an individual. And far too many times, and I listen to so many people around the country, so many states, so many Black Republican caucuses, is that everyone wants to be individuals. We have to be a community. We have to be a team. And when we become a team, we can do amazing things.
Yes.
And so I think the biggest thing is, for one, building a team. You have to work with every entity in the state of Georgia. Okay. So many people want to distance themselves from this organization, from this organization, from this entity, from this entity. You have to be able to work with all entities. One thing that's different between the Black Conservative Federation and so many other Black organizations is that we work with everyone. We work with the RNC. If there's something that we don't like that's happening at the RNC, we have a meeting and we figure out how can we make this better. We don't ridicule. We don't bash them, but we come and we sit at the table and we say, listen, how can we help you? when it comes to some of the state parties. Some of the state parties, they may not have the resources. They may not know. They may not know. Sometimes they may not even know that they're doing something wrong. But we come and we say, listen, this is not quite how you do this, but can we help you to make this better? When it comes to individuals, we believe that we're not going to throw away any individual. We're going to use every individual is going to be used for something. If they want to help, we're going to use them for something. We may disagree, but we may have an area where we can agree on. We have a very important duty as Black conservatives right now, and that is to grow the movement, but that is also to make sure that we are being inclusive and not exclusive of all Black Republicans. And so here at the Black Conservative Federation, we will reach out to everyone from the diehard Trumpers to the never Trumpers, and even anyone in between, because at the end of the day, there's a place, that big tent, there's a place for all of us.
So Corey Fields is the author of The Elephant in the Room, which is about Black conservatism and what we kind of all go through when we go in these tents. And you have been in a lot of these different places. I've seen your picture with Trump, and you work with Kevin and everything. So they say that there's two different types of Black conservative, Black Republicans, and you said you work with people all over the place. Do you agree with him that there is this colorblind Black conservative, the I ain't Black, I'm just American, or the I'm Black and I'm proud and I'm a Republican or conservative? And how do you bridge the gap so that way we can become united or one accord? Because right now there's a big fight going on between what actually is Black conservatism. Is Black a trigger word, or can we embrace our Blackness, our Black culture, and still have our conservative values, which is in our culture?
So I wouldn't say there's different sides of Black conservatism. I say there's different phases. I believe that we all come into the party that we're irritated with the Democratic Party. We're just upset, and we want to destroy everything Democrat, everyone Democrat, every thought process is Democrat, and we just want to be enraged. At the Black Conservative Federation, we believe in engaging and not enraging. We believe in disagreeing without being disagreeable. In order to get anywhere, we have to have a solutionist mentality. So before we are Black conservatives, we are solutionists, and we want change in our community. And so therefore we can sit down with anyone who is willing to create change. We can have a conversation, if that is a Democrat, if that is a Republican, if that is a never Trump, or whoever it is, we can have a conversation. Yes, there are people who believe that we should not be called the Black Conservative Federation because that's identity politics, and that we should not be separated from the entire conservative movement. But listen, there's a small level of Blacks in the party. So we have to do that to bring them in. And so I don't really care what they have to say when it comes to that. But when it comes to our participation in what we do in that big tent, listen, I'm going to embrace everyone, whether they believe they're Black or not. It's kind of one of those things that I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Is that you may not think you're Black, but I know you're Black, and so I'm going to you anyway. And so I don't really play into all of that different. Well, this person doesn't align with my view. This person believes they're not Black. I believe that we come together, and there's a place for all of us. That person who may not think that they don't believe in identity politics, that person may be a good fundraiser. That person they may have an organization that is going to be able to get boots on the ground. That there may be someone who says, I want to be in the Black community. I want to be solely in the Black community, solely in the hood, solely in urban America, solely in Black middle-class neighborhoods. That person is a good outreach person. They're good on making sure that we're bringing people to the table. I think there's a place for everyone, because just like all Blacks are not monolithic, all Black conservatives are also not monolithic.
That's actually true. And we, even in our own organization over at Conscious Conservative, we have meetings and discussions all the time. And some of us might disagree on, you see us all over Twitter doing our own little thing, and we might not even agree. So that's true. And I don't know why people do that. And I guess, they're just learning to come outside of their bubble. And
I force my team at the Black Conservative Federation to disagree with me. And I'll ask multiple questions until I get a disagreement, because sometimes you can tell when they want to disagree, and it's okay. Disagreement is great. That's how we get things done. And so this, I'm okay with it.
Awesome. What has been some of your challenges? Now we talked about Governor Youngkin's campaign and how you got to where you are now. As we're moving into 2022, first, what are you working on right now, and what are some of the challenges have you seen far as Republican messaging and getting us going for 2022?
Well, the biggest thing right now is we're preparing for 2022 midterms, obviously. And we're going to have boots on the ground like we have the last couple of years. And we're going to be in targeted states like Georgia and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan. But we got to get more Black Republicans running for local office. State rep, state senate, school board, mayor, and not always just jumping towards federal offices. Right now, there's 83 Black conservatives that's running for Congress. And that's great to see, but I would love to see those numbers helping us take back state houses. But also, we got to get to the point where we say enough with the internal infighting, and how can we work together? How can we as a Black conservative body work together? One of the challenges I've seen as a general consultant, as a strategist, and working with campaign managers is a lot of times I hear why from non-Blacks, why can't Black conservatives get along? Why can't we come together? Why can't we support one another? And so we have to be able to do that. We have to be able to come together as a community. And I believe that once we do that, we're going to be able to unlock a new level of walkaways and unlock a new level of people just running to join the Republican Party.
Yes, we believe that too. Like our mission is to actually, we want to connect Black voters with conservative options. Our biggest gripe right now was the whole unwinnable districts talking point, saying that this is D plus whatever. So we're going to target these spots instead of targeting, the areas that are hardest hit. Like we have Baltimore, Chicago, and all these other places. Like we've been promoting our allies up in Chicago. So what we have done is try to open our arms to having, boots on the ground and do things like we're doing our book drive and we're building literacy. Have you been seeing a shift as you've been out there and you've been operating in different locations? Like people post a map of like California and show all the blue and all the red and how it looks more red. Have you been seeing a shift on the ground as you've been working, or is there still some hesitation?
So listen, I've been in this party for 12 years. And I used to say, I don't believe there's a such thing as an unwinnable district, and I still don't believe there is. I believe that any chance you have to move the needle is important. However, I'm not going to say that because we're moving the needle that we should just dump 20,000 or $1 million or $5 million into that race. Because as someone who is a donor, I would be pretty upset if I knew that the RNC not the RNC, but the NRCC or the NRSC was putting $2 into a race, a seat that's D plus 20. And because I believe that we have to protect our targeted seats. And I believe that we have to, I'll say this, running for office is not considered outreach. And before we put money into these communities for a candidate, we have to put money into these communities for programming. We have to put money into these communities for enrichment programs for students and for adults and life skills training and financial literacy training before we start to run the candidate. We've gotten to the point right now in the Republican Party where people are running in unwinnable districts, as they say, or D plus 20 or D plus 10 seats, but they have not had a footprint there. They have not been involved there. And so they go and they say, well, the Democratic policies are destroying this community. Well, it may be destroying the community, but you haven't been active in the community enough to say what's destroying and what's not destroying. But let's be honest here, is that you run for office, you raise 10 million, you raise 5 million, you raise 200,000 or what have you. Um, what are you doing after you, because we have people who have lost, obviously. What are you doing after you lose? I've seen a lot of candidates that they lost in 2020. They spent the entire cycle in DC. I've seen them in DC. I've seen them in Florida down in Mar-a-Lago, and I've seen them traveling around the country. But what are you doing in your community between that time? What community leaders are you meeting with? There's a lot of time there's a gap between them. And so the problem that I see is that we have to stay in the community, we have to be involved in the community. And if you're going to run in that community, at least know what's going on, but also know who the stakeholders are and know how to actually outreach to voters. Because campaigning isn't it.
Yeah, it's not. And then, like, we try to say that, a lot of people just think go fly to Mar-a-Lago, take some pictures with Trump, and we try to say that's not outreach. We are actually, we were mostly online, and then we are in phase 2 where we're actually on the ground. We're going to College Park. I'm going to my local area. We have people in Florida, and we're actually going out. And even if the people are Democrats, we tell them we're just engaging in the community and saying, hey, there are conservatives here. Some people said they don't know where their GOP, like in College Park, where Felicia's going this Saturday. Some of the people in the area didn't even know the RNC center was there. And they said sometimes their hands are tied and the money is not being poured in there. So we were saying, why don't y'all take our literacy books and hand them out and have a literacy program there. We seeing the Hispanic centers are having Easter and Bible study and all of that. So we want to increase, what's going on at these RNC centers just for the community, not just for votes. Do you think that will inspire people to actually change the way that they're looking at campaigns and realizing that it's local politics that matter and not just the national or the presidency?
Well, when it comes to the community centers, and I remember when we started the community centers for the Trump campaign, they've just now getting the ground going. But I believe that, and I actually talked to some of the some of the RACs who run the community centers, and I will tell you, there are things that's definitely in the work. There, when you first start in, they're just now opening. You start to have to go through all this onboarding stuff. You got to go through, getting things ordered, and but I believe that it's a progress. And I personally believe that the community center should not have closed from 2020 to now. But I'm glad that they're back open, and I hope that they stay open. But I'm going to give them a chance. And I believe that it's good that you are, offering literacy books and offering ideas on how we can enhance those. That's why I say it takes a community. It takes all of us coming together to embrace and enhance each other.
It does, and that's one of the reasons I was so particular about doing this series called People Who Activate, because a lot of times people feel like they're alone, or they feel like they're fighting, David versus Goliath, when actually there are a lot of us, or they think that we are big personalities, like, something different from them. Then we're just moms and pops and citizens who want to see a change in our community, and we just decided to activate. And we just need to get these people out there. Like, a lot of people might not even know you guys, unless you're in political circles, might not even know you guys exist. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit more about what else you're working on 2022. Are there certain campaigns you're looking at? Or are there certain races you're interested in? What are you thinking for this year and for 2024, if you want to divulge that yet?
So, the first thing is we're looking to continue being active in the community with programming and, just support. One of the things that we did last August was we August is Black Business Month, and so we did a small business contest where people were showcased, where people were able to showcase their Black business and to a chance to win $1,000. Um, we're going to continue to do things like that. We want to make sure that the policies that we're promoting, we're also enhancing those. So when we talk about Black business ownership, that we're supporting Black businesses, that we are promoting Black businesses. We talk about education. We want to make sure that we're constantly focusing on school choice, that we're constantly focusing on making sure that um, people are going to college at a high rate, that we're educating our Black community, that we're giving out scholarships, that we are helping college students with college applications, and that we want to continue our community engagement. We are going to continue to do our grassroots participation by knocking doors and really going and getting into some of these communities, and really taking a lot of these campaigns messages and gearing it towards the Black community. We also want to we're going to continue to fight back against the Biden administration, and making sure people understand that how a lot of these policies just not effective, and aren't for the Black community. But then also continued training amongst current Republicans and making sure that we are um, we're well prepared. We're well prepared on our messaging. We're well prepared on doing candidate training. We're prepared on even policy. Policy is something that we have to get more engaged in, and really being able to not just have talking, not just splat out the talking points, but just have our own points and own. And we're going to start actually pushing out talking points or talkers. To give people ideas from the Black Conservative Federation as well, so that people can be able to gain their own ideas and craft their own messaging.
What are some challenges are you seeing as Black voters are getting depressed with the Biden administration? Some people say that Black depression helps the Republican Party, and that's why they don't seem at a higher level to be as engaged. What would you say to that?
What are some things in the Biden administration that's um, suppressing the Black community?
No, well, right now they're saying that there might be a voter depression. Black voters are just going to stay home and stay out of, voting. What can we offer on the right other than Dems bad that can motivate people to come out and vote? Because even though we talk about the election was stolen and things like that, like for Georgia, for example, we had over 300,000 conservatives that didn't even go vote. They didn't, and so a lot of times Republicans win based on low Black voter turnout. And this time we want to actually increase turnout. So what things can we offer other than Biden sucks? Because it seems like
Okay.
everybody kind of knows that.
Well, you can continue to say that Biden sucks, but when you say that, have an alternative solution. Like I said earlier, is that the Black Conservative Federation, we are all about solutions. And so if we're going to talk about, and one reason why we haven't really talked about, like, for instance, student loan debts, don't really have a solution for that. And I believe the reason that the Biden administration has not put it forth is because they know that Republicans are not going to go for it, and also they know that the far right Democrats, the moderate Democrats, the blue dog Democrats, aren't going to go for that as well. But having solutions that's going to, we talk about um, child poverty or poverty in America. We know that the only thing that can solve poverty in America is a free enterprising community, a free enterprising world, a capitalist society. We know that's the only thing that's going to help that. We talk about, low test scores and the challenges that students in public schools have or students have in inner cities. We know that the only thing that's going to solve that is school choice. And so really combating that, not just saying, well, this is the problem that's happening to Democrats without an alternative, is that the problem that voters are staying home is because they feel that they don't have an alternative. They feel like, well, I heard someone once told me that what a Democrat hasn't done, a Republican definitely won't do. And so
Mm.
we have to be where we are providing solutions that our solutions are the ones, our ideas, our policies are the ones who's going to create solutions for our community.
Awesome, and I definitely agree with that because like some people might turn their head at us because we actually came up with Felicia just put something together which was a reparations solution that was based in conservative principles. It was actually going after institutions that actually benefited from slavery. Like you had people that sued colleges, for example. So she got the idea of businesses like Wall Street businesses who actually profited, or insurance companies giving out some kind of loan program, and then it was some kind of repayment program. It's outlined over at the network. But what I'm saying is we came up with something because that was something voters were interested in. So you're saying that we should come up like healthcare. I've seen a podcast where a Democrat was saying, well, the Republicans have no plan. So are we supposed to keep waiting, against universal because socialism is bad, but we haven't really heard what the right healthcare plan is, even though I have a couple of people
We
who
don't have,
have something, but
we don't, and they're right.
mhm.
Republicans had their opportunity. We don't have a health care plan. And we've had the House and the Senate and still couldn't get it passed. So there are things that we just don't have, and we have to take that loss on it. No, I agree. We just have to have solutions to combat them. Is that if we say that, let's not go left, why should we go right? And so that's where I stand on that.
Have you seen how do you feel about Kevin, one of the things that he's prominent about is putting people on boards and committees. Have you seen a shift that Republicans are starting to pay attention now, even as the parents are interested in the school boards and the committees, are people are starting now understanding how important that each of these levels of government are layered, and how each one of them we need to put someone in those seats as well?
Well, I think I agree. And Kevin and I have talked about that. I think the problem is that Republicans have not understood that yet. Republicans have fought against the school boards, but yet I don't see a massive number of people running for school board. Um, we talk about what's happening within our justice system, but I don't see people running for parole boards. I don't see people running for housing boards. I don't see, and so um, I don't see people running to serve on election commissions or election boards. Some states have board of elections, and so yes, we do have to make sure that we are putting our people into some of these boards, and some of these are appointments, and some of these boards are in Republican states with Republican governors, but yet we don't have people on those boards. And that's even in the local, and that's even locally in some of the local municipalities.
Yeah, and that's a shame because we leaving those areas open, and those are where policy things happen at the local level. And we're a republic, so the government closest to us is what affects us the most. So we're looking at it the wrong way from the top down instead of down up.
Mhm.
And without having those in place, people are getting crushed by people who do fill the seats. Like a lot of, I talked a couple of days ago, if you go on ballotpedia.com, you can see 30% of seats go uncontested. So some people are just getting reelected because no one is running against them. How could you think we can shape the atmosphere for people to have the courage to run? I know, Felicia teaches people how to own their stories and how to own their history so that they can control it and so they can use their story to move forward. How can we encourage people to run for these positions, to not, the dragon and the social media sensations? Some people are scared to step forward. And that's why I'm doing this series about people activating, because we all, got skeletons, but yet we're taking that risk. What would you say to those people who might be borderline or might be wondering, what, I do need to do something? What would you say to them?
Well, it always depends on what office you're running for. If the first question is, and I have to be honest, I hate seeing empty seats, but I understand why I see empty seats. Running for office is a rich man's game. And I always say that if you cannot spend 50 to 100,000 of your own money to run, you should not be running.
Mm.
Because to get money, to raise money, it takes money. And so you have to pay for, you have to have a consultant, you have to have a campaign manager, or you have to have a fundraiser, and those positions there cost money. And you have to, and fundraising may not be as successful starting out. And so I think so many people end up in debt because they can't afford to run. Uh,
Mm.
they just can't afford to run. Um, and to run in a non-targeted district is not just a rich man's game. It's a like a millionaire's, it's a billionaire's race game, that you are going to spend even more money, but also people, are not going to be as compelled to donate as fast. Uh, you know, I I support a lot of candidates, but I'm not about to go waste $2,000 maxing out a campaign that doesn't have that much of a chance of winning. Though that's doing, I mean, I support it, but my bank account don't support it. And so
Got to be smart with capitalists. I
we,
understand.
and we have to have those honest conversations with ourselves. I see a lot of people that are running, and you can't. And then you have people. Grassroots is important, but grassroots also costs money.
Yes.
Um,
I'm like, you got some money? I need some. No, I'm just playing.
Unfortunately, uh, a team of four people is not going to win a congressional race. A team of four people are not going to win a state house race. A team of four people is definitely not going to win a governor's race. You have to have the money. Grassroots costs money, and I don't think people really understand that because
No, and
volunteers aren't volunteering at the same rate they used to. It's hard for listen. It's hard for me to find door knockers, paid door knockers.
a lot of the times it's also because resources are running thin because everything that's going on right now. We had corona, we had everything going on right now, and there are people willing to donate, but they have to believe in what they're donating in too. You got some of these people that feel like they donated and then their candidate lost, or they donated and these people ran away with their money, or you got all these grifters, all the people who was on the Trump train that you don't see any of them anymore. So people are more particular about what they with their money. So how would you tell someone that wants to activate but might not have the dollar signs to activate? You tell them to jump grassroots, start to go on grassroots. What would you tell them to do?
I mean, so activating is not running for office, but just getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Activating is more than just
yeah,
office.
no,
People say, "Oh, you're telling me to run," and I'm like, "No, that's not. I'm not running." So.
that's why I wanted to clarify that. No,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's always for those who's not running for office. I think there's always something that you can do um, to get involved. And so, for an instance, partnering with other organizations like yours, partnering with the state party and the county party, and people have to start getting involved in their local parties as well. Get involved with your county party, get involved with your city party. Like those are very important. And that's how you can make changes within your state party. But getting involved that way, um, you know, raising money under an organization, under a trusted organization, making sure that you have all the paperwork done and that you're reporting properly. But you know, getting involved that way is always important. But also, there's organizations like the Black Conservative Federation that where if you're in Atlanta and you have 5 or 10 people that you know that you want to um, knock doors during an election cycle, you can reach out to us and we'll pay you and your people, and we'll pay you to organize efforts there. Um, but there's always ways for us to get involved. I think that's one most important way.
Yes, that's what I have a rare people. I have a mom that just started her group on Nextdoor, and I talked to her doing like right after Arizona and everything. And she started her mom group that grew to 250 people just by talking to people on social media. And social media and online organization has just completely exploded with, even with our organization. And we are doing some stuff ourselves to grow and to, gain resources and link up. And that's another reason why we have everybody coming out and we do these summits and things. What would you say for people who are not sure they want to be conservative or Republican, or do they need to strip away the labels, look at policy? What would you advise people who are independent or who are just not liking the situation or everything right now?
Um, just be a solutionist. Um, let's be a solutionist. It's that simple. Be someone who's focused on creating solutions for your community.
What do you see for the midterms this year? Do you think the Republicans are just going to sweep it? Do you think it's going to be more of a struggle than Republicans think? We going to get more rhinos? Like what are you foreseeing in your political crystal ball know-how behind the scenes kind of?
So we'll definitely take back the House. I don't think it's going to be as overwhelming as many are believing it to be. I believe the Senate is going to be some work, and all eyes are going to be on Georgia. It's not going to be as easy, and I think we're going to take back some governor mansions as well.
Yes. Alrighty. I really, really appreciated this conversation. I got educated as well. I'm glad to know that we all are kind of in the same circles already. So this is definitely the beginning of something, not the end of something. And I'll probably be reaching out to you again, depending on what we're doing and what we might need. So thank you so much for joining me on the episode of Miss Pinky Thoughts. Do you have anything else on your mind that you would like to share? Because I'm going to, send out this video and I'm going to make an audio. Is there anything on your mind right now you would like to talk about?
Um, I just want just encouraging everyone to get involved. We need all boots on the ground, and every individual in this movement is important. Everyone has a job, everyone has a task, and your task is to get involved. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on a new episode of Miss Pinky Thoughts. This was my series on people who activate with Diante Johnson, president of Black Conservative Federation. You can find him BCF president on Twitter and anywhere else. You guys have a website. You can do your plug.
BCFaction.com.
What was say that one more again?
BCFaction.com.
BCFaction.com. Thank you again for joining us, and you have a wonderful evening. And like I said before, we're definitely going to keep in contact. And I think 2022 and 2024 is we really gearing up because it's going to be very interesting.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.